Hello? Welcome to Mom Games Badly. There are plenty of moms out there who are fantastic video gamers. I'm not one of them. But I still enjoy playing. I hope you'll enjoy hanging out with me while I play. This is Our Life, Beginnings and Always, Part 8. I'm not sure where we go from here. So I've restyled myself here. So I've bleached my hair white. And we are... I guess we're direct and in love. So... let's go. Begin step 4 at direct love. Are you sure? Yes, sure. Cove customization. Now we're not doing sunglasses. All right. Which initiative level would you like Cove to have for step 4? Let's a little bit more, please. Medium initiative was not enough initiative for me. I knew there was a 4th step, which is why I got so confused when we got to the end of step 3 and it was like, it's the end of the game. Like, wait, what? What? Oh, how? What happened? So I wonder if when the game was originally released, it only had 3 steps and then they added a 4th after, maybe? I don't know. All right. And so your days of growing up in the loving cradle of Sunset Bird came to an end. In the years that passed since graduation, you'd moved out of your childhood home and made your own way in the world. You lived alone, lived with a pet, lived with pets, lived with Cove and his fish, lived with Cove, his fish, and the pet you picked, lived with Cove, his fish, and the pets you picked. I'm going to start with my own space. And you worked at a fine company, had a business of your own, co-owned a business with Cove. No, do not go into business with people you are in a relationship with. Do not. Had multiple ways of earning income. We're still focused on pursuing education. I have my own business. In the, oh God, music industry, art industry, fashion industry, writing industry, TV and movie industry, sporting industry, gaming industry, hospitality industry, health industry, education field, STEM field. Girls in STEM. Your family members went through the same kinds of leaps into independence. Liz and Lee both eventually earned degrees and started fantastic careers in new towns. But your moms and Cove's father still lived on the same street as they had for all those years before. It was comforting to you that there were some things that remained in the old neighborhood. And despite the ever-changing reality of your adult life, your friends were still your friends. Though, of course, things weren't exactly the same for them either. Very recently, Terry publicly came out as a man and switched the spelling of his name to use a Y instead of an I. He also confessed his love for Miranda. I knew it! I knew it! Which she excitedly reciprocated. I knew it! Yay! They moved in together recently in the city out past Sunset Bird. Derek was busy as always, but doing well. He always made an effort to keep in touch, and you even saw each other in person occasionally. One person who did disappear into the shuffle of memories inside your mind was Baxter. After his vacation in Sunset Bird 1 year, he was just gone. That was a loss, you felt. He had become someone you'd considered a friend during those days. Had he? And then there's what came of the sad little boy you grew up with, Cove Holden. Your deep affection for him was something that continued to last unabated over the years. But hopefully you would commit to each other even more someday. You didn't want your relationship to change from what it was. And the two of you got engaged. He was your fiancé. I mean, like, literally, at the end of the last episode, we became boyfriend and girlfriend. So it's like, I don't know. I haven't spent any time with him as a girlfriend. Or significant other. Because we're non-binary. Hopefully you'll commit to each other. And luckily, things worked out for the two of you to still live pretty close by. Unfortunately, you and Cove lived in locations far from each other. Ooh. How far is far? How far is far? Is it like the next state over? Is it across the country? And is close by? Like 3 blocks away? Is it the next city over? Is it 30 miles away? I don't know. Would be more interesting. Long distance relationship? Or close by? Well, let's go with close by. He truly thrived in his continued efforts of cultivating loving and supportive relationships with his family and friends. His personality had changed, becoming more open than ever before. Cove was a warm, inviting, considerate man who took the lessons he'd learned over the years to treat the people around him with patience and understanding. When Cove eventually developed a picture of the future he wanted to have as an adult, you could see where he was coming from based on his past interests. He went to college to study marine biology. His ultimate goal was set on becoming a natural resource technician, and he still volunteered with Orca when his workload allowed it. As an adult, Cove was able to recognize and have diagnosed that he was on the autism spectrum. No! I never would have guessed. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. It was something that hadn't been noticed by his doctors as a child. That's some crap doctors. But he was still the same Cove he always was to you, and he was just glad to understand himself better. It thrilled you to see how happy and successful he'd grown up to be. On the whole, life continued its steady beat forward, and you all went with it down the paths you chose. It was strange and wonderful. But no matter how old you got, how far you roamed, or how long you were away, the home you had in Sunset Bird still called you back eventually. The car rumbled down the highway. You had started to zone out when a truck in the left lane loudly zoomed past. Your driver didn't remark on it, just like anything else this trip. You went back to staring out the window, letting the scenery pass you by. You did appreciate the spacious back seat of your ride. You hadn't known exactly when you would be coming in, so you had decided to use a ride app rather than ask your moms to pick you up. It had turned out to be a convenient choice. You looked forward to surprising your parents at the door. You smiled at the thought of their faces lighting up. Luckily, this hadn't been that big of a trip for you. You lived close enough that the travel hadn't turned into a big production. However, that didn't make the occasion mundane. For once, your moms had decided to have a modest celebration dinner for their anniversary. Unlike when you were growing up and they preferred not to make a big deal out of it, this year they were comfortable having a party. As time went on, they had found being the center of attention easier to handle. You were happy to see it. With this going on, there was no way that either you or Liz would miss your mom's anniversary. Both of you made plans to come back home for it. You didn't hear from Liz about her exact schedule, but you hadn't shared yours either. It reminded you of when you were kids and both knew to show up for dinner, but didn't keep each other in the loop for each other's pre-dinner plans. This was the same concept after all. Some things stayed the same, and yet it was definitely different from when you would see your sister every day, and knew what she was doing anyways from osmosis. Today you had no idea. Things were always changing. You mused on how at times it was hard for you to believe you didn't live with your parents anymore, and yet you also couldn't imagine going back and living as a kid under their rules. The rest of the drive flew by. Your silent driver provided a smooth ride. No sharp turns or hard stops jostled you out of your own head. Your thoughts turned from introspective to observant. The landscape passing by became more and more familiar. You frequently recognized the landmarks that dotted the area. A grin came to your face as you passed the "Now Entering" sign for Sunset Bird. Excitement built within you. You are really here. You are doing this. Your driver turned off on a street, and you realized that their map program was taking you the way home that Ma preferred. You usually would have used the other side street to pass by the beach. In no time at all, the car had gone through the whole of town and pulled in front of your mom's condo. The car slowed to a stop and parked. With the buzz of the highway gone, you realized that you could hear the familiar sound of waves. The air smelled like salt, and a rush of childhood memories flooded back. You started to gather your things, and humming to yourself once more about how happy your moms would be to see you. After that, you'd notify everyone else that you'd made the trip safely. You pulled over your suitcase from the other seat and yanked at your bag from down near your feet. Tap, tap. You startled at the sudden sound of tapping on glass. It caused you to pause. Did you really hear what you thought you did? You weren't entirely sure because you soon heard something else. The window on the opposite side of the car rolling down. It confused you until you put it together that despite the driver's silence, you weren't actually alone in this car. The driver must have pressed the button. Someone had to be there. You turned your head to face the now open window. There he was, leaning his arms across the window, your beloved Cove Holden. He beamed at you with one of his precious open smiles. Hey, Jamie. What a surprise this is. I didn't expect to see you in this neighborhood. He was joking, of course. Seeing your expression, he decided to push it further. It's not like I've been waiting for you out here all morning or anything. Cove, I've been the one waiting to see you. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. You survived. You screamed excitedly. You stared, stunned. I mean, yeah, he's hot now and all. Sorry to keep you waiting. Me. He chuckled at your apology and inclined his head. Don't worry about it. He then gripped the top of the car door and pushed half of his torso through the opening. That was enough to make the driver break their silence with a sharp, "Hey!" Cove did not seem to notice and continued climbing in through the window. He pushed one hand down into the middle seat to prop his dangling body up. He could wait for us to get out of the car. He used his other hand to caress your cheek as he leaned in as close as he could. I missed you. You scooched across the seats and kissed him on the lips. You leaned over and kissed him on the forehead. You covered his hand with yours. You flicked his nose. No, his mother did that. Don't do that. You did your best to hug him without knocking him down. You grinned at him. Of course, when his scooch over and smooch, he enthusiastically reciprocated. The arm holding him wobbled at your touch, and you could feel him smile under your smooch. He was clearly struggling to avoid falling down onto the cushion. You pulled back just a little to get a better view of his face. I missed you too. I missed you even more than you missed me. All right, now get out of the window, you crazy person. You're so cute. I really should have expected this, you and your windows. You sighed happily. I promise this was unplanned. I know, still doesn't make a difference. Cove's smile turned awkward as his arms started to bend lower, causing his body to slide downwards with it. He turned his head to the driver. Sorry, I'm always causing trouble in this neighborhood. Cove shifted around some more and squirmed back the way he came. After he had successfully pushed off the window and landed on the pavement with a thump, you opened your car door. You threaded your arms through the various straps of your bags and climbed out. Cove took a few long strides around the back of the car and quickly met you on your side. Cove stood in front of you, and it struck you that the two of you were back in Sunset Bird, reunited once again on this street. You jumped into his arms. You gave him a friendly punch. You ruffled his hair. You held out your hand for a high five. You held out your hand for a fist bump. You waved shyly at him. I'll ruffle his hair if I can reach it. You reached up and tousled Cove's soft green hair. He is still tall, but you could get there. You ignored his helpful slouch that allowed you to get to the top of his head without stretching. You really were ecstatic to be around him again, absolutely thrilled that it was here in this town where you were together. Cove's schedule had let him come up earlier than you. He only arrived the evening before, however, and secured the hotel room. Even though you didn't live far from each other and still managed to see Cove often, it felt like it had been way too long since your last meeting. Oh! You idly shifted your luggage, then it struck you that you were short one. You got out in such a hurry that it was left behind. You reached back into the car to pull it out. Cove stood aside as you made a dash for the door. You shouldered the small bag and felt relief that you would be able to brush your teeth tonight. Got everything this time? You stood up straight, everything truly gathered up and out of the car. You gave the back seat one last glance and then nodded. Cove shut the car door after you had moved out of the way. The two of you stepped off the street to give the driver some room. Cove waved. Sorry again. The driver said nothing and drove off. With the road clear, you let your gaze drift across the neighborhood that you had known forever. It was such a small place to spend so many days. You were flooded with memories of going up and down this street during every stage of your life. Being a little kid, following your big sister to the playground, becoming a teen and staying out later, and growing into an adult who left their parents' house behind to be independent. You could feel the summer sun on your skin from all the times you headed out to the beach. You saw the same surroundings that you as a young adult did when leaving home. It was hard to quantify the amount of history you had here, and now you were back. Despite taking in the neighborhood again, you never lost awareness of Cove's presence. From the corner of your eye, seeing him there was a very familiar sight as well. So many of your memories included him. Your mind drifted from the neighborhood itself to the person who used to live there. You couldn't help the feeling of nostalgia. You still remembered his face, his voice, the scar on his arm from days long gone. He had changed so much since you first met him. Yet even with those changes, he was always recognizable. Is there? He was familiar like the sky was, in the way that you knew the sea. Every day they may appear different, but they're still an inextricable part of life. It was the world, with the help from Mr. Holden and his ill-thought $20 bill, that brought you together to begin with, but the two of you had chosen each other. You had never let your interactions fade. You had decided to nurture your relationship into what it was. And you would continue to keep Cove close into all the rest of your adult years. Cove was the partner you wanted for life. You couldn't be more grateful to call him your boyfriend. It would be impossible to imagine life without him. You know, I'm almost tempted to go back and start this chapter over. Just because, like, I know my character did, but, like, I personally never got that attached to Cove. But I will try to muster up some more enthusiasm. It would be impossible to imagine life without him. Cove noticed you staring at him after a while and smiled with his eyebrows rising in curiosity. He was very transparent in his question, if there was something you wanted to say. You shook your head and returned him a soft expression. You'd let yourself get carried away in a tide of memories, but now it was time to focus on the present. No time like now. Let's go see my mom's. Cove nodded and then pointed at all your luggage bundled around your legs. Can I help with any of that? Yeah, thank you. You can help with all of it. No, it's like carrying all my groceries in one go. No, the house is literally right here. No, you drop them. Yes, thank you. You gratefully passed him a bag. It was a lot easier to balance everything with that out of the way. He used both hands to take hold of the one piece of luggage and stood tall, pleased to be able to provide his assistance. The bag situation resolved, the two of you strolled over to the Johnson residence's door. That's our mom's. You started to pat your pockets instinctively, only to realize that you no longer carried a key to the house. Your eyes scanned the entryway, a little lost, only to spy the doorbell. The thought of having to ring it felt super weird. As you pressed the inconveniently placed button on the side wall, you remembered that no matter how much this place would always be a home to you, it wasn't where you lived. Being back here was like putting on a uniform after you quit the store where it came from. It had remained the same, but your circumstance had changed. Cove shifted on his feet awkwardly, obviously also thrown about you being stuck out here, keyless. You heard muffled voices and shuffling around from inside. Your heartbeat sped up in anticipation. The door swung open, and there was your mom's smiling face. She immediately brightened at seeing you standing there. Well, well, well. Mom twisted her head back and gave a shout down the hall. Lonnie, guess who's here? There were more distant noises, no doubt Ma getting up from wherever she was to come see. Her high-spirited words rang out clearly. I hope it's one of my children. Mom snickered, still holding the door only half open to hide you for a little longer. Cove flushed as if suddenly realizing that he was going to be present for your mom's enthusiastic welcoming of you. You smiled to reassure him that he wasn't intruding. Ma finally reached the door and peered over Mom's shoulder. It is! Hello, Jamie! She gave you a once-over, patting the tops of your shoulders and moving down the sides of your arms, before she nodded in satisfaction that you were in one piece.
How sweet.
This is a wonderful surprise. Ma inclined her head to Cove next, not leaving him out either. Hello, sweetie. You count as one of my kids at this point anyways. I have double the surprise today.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You grinned at your parents and laughed. You missed their presence so much. Cove bashfully waved at them. He hadn't relaxed fully, but he had settled down at their welcome. Well, don't just stand out there. Come on in. Your mom moved aside and held the door open for you, gesturing for you to enter. Okay. You stepped into the living room. It was comfortable and cool. Cove was a half step behind you. His eyes on a new painting your mom's must have added since the last time you were here. Things were mostly the same, but there were more decorations since you had seen the house last. Like, I see some new plants. Mom must have gotten the urge for some interior designing again. It struck you how odd it was to be the guest, only observing their choices for the living space here, rather than a full-time occupant. Ma came up in front of you, excitement in her eyes. I'm so glad you're here.
That's fine.
You know your mom and I would have been happy to pick you up, but you're self-sufficient and responsible. That's okay. What matters is that you arrived safely. Mom appeared at her side with a nod. Welcome back, kiddos. You appreciated that your parents respected you as an adult, even if Mom still called you kiddo. You figured long ago that you'd always be her kiddo no matter how grown you became. It was part of the whole parent-child deal with her. Yep. Your kids are always your kids. So... You hugged your moms. You grinned. You took your mom's hands. You gave them a thumbs up. You're giving my mothers a thumbs up. What the... You took another step forward and pulled Mom and Ma into a great big hug, squeezing them tight. Their arms wrapped around you in return, and you could feel their love for you in their embrace. Alright, hang on a second here. I'm gonna scooch this down just a little bit. I'm always trimming that later. There we go. All right. You could feel their love for you in their embrace. I'm happy to be here. I've missed you both. It's so great to see you. I wanted to surprise you. I thought you deserved a little break after everything I put you through. You enjoyed the moment. I thought you deserved a little break. You know, when growing up and all, it seemed best to let you off the hook for at least one thing. Your joke made Ma shake her head. We were always happy to have you, Jamie. Plus, there are some things you can never recover from, no matter how much time you get. It's always nice when I'm able to come by. Your mom's giggled, pleased. So how's it been? I hope you've been good, getting enough excitement and all that. Speaking of exciting things, your anniversary dinner. Is everything all set for that?
No problem.
We're happy to help if there's something we can do. We've been plenty fine. It's been a little quiet, but that's not a bad thing. Mom placed her arm around Ma's shoulder and gave her a side hug.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about the party. We're just planning to eat at the Cypress, nothing fancy. Which is kind of a funny thing to say about a pretty fancy country club. Biggest issue has just been making sure everyone could make it for the day. Speaking of which, Liz will be arriving tonight. We're planning on picking her up later. I guess Liz isn't as grown up as Jamie. Mom snickered at her own joke, and Ma lightly elbowed her with a barely hidden grin.
Shush.
Shush! As I was saying, we could drop you off wherever you're staying if you don't mind waiting for that. I'm sorry there's not space for you in the house. It's gotten crowded in those old rooms since you and Liz moved out. I don't know where all this stuff keeps coming from. Sure you don't, Pamela. It's okay. Cove already has a hotel room I'm going to be staying in anyway. Cove sent you some pictures of the place when he arrived. Stylish and roomy. It seemed very nice. It was a double room. It was a room with a single king bed. How long have we been boyfriend and girlfriend? Since we were 18? And we're young adults now? He'd claimed that the bed was comfortable, so you had high hopes about that. But mostly you were looking forward to having him next to you as you slept once again. Your mom smiled, relieved. Kyra's already here, isn't she? She directed her question at Cove. He bobbed his head a bit to go along with his reply. Yeah, I heard she made it. She's going to be staying with Dad while she's in town.
Oh?
Have you gone over and said hello, Dad? Have you gone over and said hello yet? Cove chuckled self-consciously, and this time he shook his head. You raised an eyebrow, since you had figured he would have taken the chance while waiting for you. Not yet. I should go do that now. I just wanted Jamie to be there, too. He caught your eyes with an adoring smile. Mom laughed at that, no doubt thinking that Cove was sweet but ridiculous.
How nice.
It's nice to know your priorities. Yeah. Cove awkwardly rubbed his arm and shifted on his feet, looking all too much like he did as a kid.
So?
Jamie, do you want to go over to my house now? That's a good idea. We won't be leaving till late evening. Yeah, let's go for it. Cove perked back up, excited once more. We'll keep an eye on your things while you're out. There's no reason to be carrying all that around. You set down your bags in the living room, tucked into a corner where they wouldn't be in the way. Cove helped. Your moms waved the two of you off as you walked back to the entranceway. Thanks. See you soon. You waved back and opened the front door for Cove. With that, you were on your way to see Cove's family next. This trip put a special little pep in Cove's steps as you crossed the street to his dad's house together. Your spirits were equally high. Doing this, you felt like a teen again. You had known Cove's parents for a long time now. When it came to what you called his dad, you still stuck with the familiar classic of Mr. Holden. You switched back to saying Cove's dad. You were on a first-name basis with Cliff. I still call my friends' parents Mr. and Mrs. whatever. I'm 54. And I still call them Mr. So-and-so, Ms. So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so. So I'll probably stick with the familiar classic. At this point, you couldn't imagine calling him anything else. Despite it being formal, it rolled off your tongue naturally. For his mom, you were still on a first-name basis with Kyra. You called her Mom 3 in a non-serious way. Let's just keep calling her Kyra. She always preferred that, even you were still just a kid. Honestly, you couldn't imagine calling her anything else. Cove hopped up to the front door and didn't bother knocking. He twisted the knob and it swung open. With a grin, Cove gave you a gratified thumbs up. You shook your head in disapproval, but you both knew that you hypocritically supported his behavior. Your dad is lucky we aren't criminals. He brushed your comment aside and went right into his old home. Mr. Holden was there, standing in his kitchen and babysitting a pan on the stove. His head turned at the sound of footsteps, and he brightened instantly at the sight of you both. Cove matched his enthusiasm instantly. If it was anyone else, you would have thought he was lighting up with a childlike joy over seeing his dad again. But since you knew what Cove was actually like as a kid, you were aware this level of happiness with Mr. Holden was definitely not equivalent to any childhood feelings of his. Dad! Cove! Mr. Holden gracelessly pushed what he was cooking to a different burner and flipped off the heat. He rushed over to you both. Cove flew forward and met him halfway in a hug. Cove squished his eyes shut and held his dad in a tight hug. Mr. Holden soothingly rubbed his son's back. The more of an adult Cove became, the more he turned into a big daddy's boy, it seemed. I missed you. I missed you too. He was sweet. And teasing aside, it was wonderful to see them at this place in their relationship after years of struggling to connect. When the hug broke, Mr. Holden hooked an arm around his son's neck. He let out a deep laugh. I still can't believe you outgrew me. I really thought I had that on him after he graduated from high school, but then he had to keep going. Chuckling, he shook his fist in mock anger. Cove ducked his head and laughed in kind. Sorry, Dad. Cove's cheeks turned pink, and he averted his eyes. He was becoming bashful, so you knew he had more he wanted to say. Cove softly added,
That's...
But I was raised really well. His dad's expression instantly crumbled with emotion. He sniffled. Cove put an arm around him too and tugged him into a side hug. You observed their little reunion fondly, happy to let them enjoy their moment. They were a perfect pair of sentimentality. Mr. Holden eventually turned his attention to you.
Hey.
Hi, Jamie. So great to see you. He pulled away from Cove and approached you with a little wave. He was back to his cheery self. Hi. Hi, Mr. Holden. Mr. Holden, it's so nice to see you. I missed you, Mr. Holden. You didn't say anything. Let's just go with hi. You waved. You offered him a high five. You gave his arm a pat. You hugged him. You smiled. We'll give him a hug. In seconds, your arms were wrapped around his middle. You smelled like spices from the kitchen and the sunscreen he used to slather Cove in as a kid. Feeling a swell of emotion, you felt at home and squeezed him tighter. There was a quiet sniffle, and then he hugged you back. I'm glad you're here. Me too. Mr. Holden cleared his throat, pulling attention to himself. He crossed his arms. But before we get too carried away, it's not a real reunion yet. Kyra's still in the guest suite. I'll go get her. He eagerly bolted down the hall, and you could hear every step he took. It ended with a distinct knock. Kyra, they're here! It was only seconds before there was the sound of a door being yanked open. The pounding of feet hitting the wood floor grew even louder this time.
My baby!
My baby! Next to you, Cove let out a nervous laugh. His parents entered the living room, and Kyra stretched her arms out wide when she spotted you both. Cove went to her easily. You went in for the hug, too. You opened your own arms up for a big hug. You raised your arms up to pass. You shook your head no. I'll go in for the hug, too, I guess. She pulled you tightly into her arms with Cove. You were squished, but felt every bit of love Kyra held in her heart for you both. Cove wrapped his free arm around her, too. He rested his head on top of hers and let out a happy sigh. After a moment, Kyra let go and pulled back to get a better look at your faces. She surveyed every inch of them and appeared satisfied. You're both looking well. That's wonderful, and just what I like to see. Thanks. And hi, Mom. Thank you. Thanks, Kyra. You look great too, Kyra. Welcome back, Kyra. I missed you, Kyra. You didn't say anything. You look great too, Kyra. One day soon, I'll let you in on my secrets. Kyra winked. You had zero doubts that she had precious knowledge to looking your best. She was stunning every time you saw her. I'd be honored. So, you put your hands on your hips, your gaze sliding from one to the other. How have you both been doing since I last saw you? Any good stories? Kyra gave a nod for Mr. Holden to go first. Cheerfully, he waved a hand.
No worries.
Oh, same old, same old. Still got the shop, still got my friends and family, of course. And still the most exciting thing around here is seeing who'll rent that one free condo. Incredible. I always knew you were such a snorer. He snickered, and you couldn't help but peek at Cove. He rolled his eyes dramatically, drawing out a few giggles from you, but the whole time there was still a happy smile fixed on his face.
Wow.
All right, I need to go get some more water. Throat is very dry today. For me, things have been good. I've gotten a lot of interesting assignments lately. Oh, I recently went to Seattle. And Kyra twirled a strand of her hair shyly, and her mouth curved into a grin. Whatever she was thinking about, it made her happy. Things have still been going well with that guy from work, but it's a little early to bring him all the way out to California to meet the family. Cove crossed his arms. He and his dad nodded. It was clear she appreciated the acceptance from her two boys. That's great. I'm really happy for you. I hope he gets the seal of approval when he does come around. You silently nodded as well. I'm really happy for you.
Thanks.
Thank you. You were honestly glad that things were going well for her. She was clearly grateful for your approval as well. So, that's us. Do you two have plans for your first day back? The only thing I have to do is pick up Liz later tonight before we head back to our hotel room.
Great.
Great. He suddenly looked over his shoulders, his eyebrows pushed together. I'm glad you're here, but I just remembered that I was in the middle of cooking something. Only a small cackle escaped you while you fought off the giant grin taking over your face. Meanwhile, Cove erupted into laughter that had his dad shaking his head. That's fine, Dad. Go salvage what you can. I think it'd be nice to explore the old neighborhood for a while anyway, since we've got the time. Cove directed the last part to you as he spoke, hoping that you'd want to go with him. You nodded automatically. You were already looking forward to it. That's a perfect idea.
Makes sense.
I think so too. You should go enjoy the day. I'll hang back here so I won't be a third wheel. And someone's got to keep an eye on Cliff before he catches the whole kitchen on fire. Mom, you're not a third wheel. Cove stiffly stuck his arms against his side like a little child. A small smirk tugged at Kyra's mouth. She winked. You know what I mean. Have a good walk. I'll see you both later. Cheerily, Mr. Holden waved before going back to his cooking. Cove smiled warmly.
Bye.
Okay, bye. We'll be back. Bye. Cove trailed behind you as you walked into the welcoming summer sun. He stopped, closing his eyes to stretch his arms in the warm rays. Satisfied, Cove turned to you and carefully took your hand in his. The heat of that was better and more comforting than any ray of sunlight that could shine on you today. Stepping closer, you squeezed his hand. Your mouth curved into a playful smile. Lucky for you, I needed help carrying that hand. Let's go. Naturally, you found yourself heading down the road toward the beach. Your spirits rose even higher as you strolled across the sand, heading for the shopping district. Arriving, you wove past tourists who were taking in the sights for the very first time. Being a local was a badge of honor you wore proudly. You casually walked past the shops. Over the years, some had closed down, but many of the stalls were still exactly the same as they were when you were little. Cove snapped his head as far as it could go to one side, so dramatically you couldn't have missed it. Something clearly caught his eye, but you couldn't see it. It's probably the magician, right? With the balloon animals?
Please?
Oh. There's a pretzel stand open today. Can we get one? When his gaze found you again, he wore the biggest smile. You chuckled. You're an adult. You don't need to ask me. Yeah, we can. You don't need to ask my permission. Of course you can. I don't want one, though. You nodded happily. You don't need to ask my permission. Does your heart want a pretzel? Yep, it does. For a moment, you both quietly laughed at that. You placed a hand over your own heart. Then I think you should follow. You're going to get the one that comes with the little frosting cup, aren't you? That's right. After that, you both happily made your way over, being pulled in faster by the delicious aroma of the stall. With that, you changed course to the pretzel stand for a snack break. Cove was very pleased by the morsel he picked up, and that was good to see. The sun arched across the sky as you went up and down the road as a pair. By the time you returned to the beach, day was beginning to fade into night. Cove kicked his shoes off, tossing them into the sand. He wanted to get his feet wet in the waves as fast as possible. You joined him. You avoided the water. Sure, I'll put my feet in the water. In seconds, you had your feet free, and your shoes abandoned in the sand. You kept going until you were ankle deep in the water. Cove sighed contentedly. You followed his line of sight to the setting sun, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink. It really feels like summer now. He wore a bent smile when he turned to you. The light illuminated like a halo behind him, and the sight took your breath away. In fact, it's hard to think of anything that feels more perfectly summer than moments exactly like this. Being here at sunset, in Sunset Bird, with you. I'm so glad we were able to come back for a visit. Agreeing with Cove, you made an okay sign with one hand. Okay. You felt your heart flutter in your chest. Your smile quickly stretched ear to ear. I'm happy too. Of course we would have ended up like this again, sooner or later. This is a wonderful day. I guess it's not so bad being back in the old neighborhood. You didn't have to say anything. You felt the ocean breeze brush against your skin like a comforting, familiar gesture. Cove murmured quietly, losing himself in his thoughts again. Shortly after, you saw his hand shoot down into the sand. He stood straight back up with a lopsided smile and got to work brushing the sand off his prize. You knew without a single word, Cove found a new shell for your collection. As you wandered down the beach, Cove followed at your side in comfortable silence. Your shadows stretched across the sand like they were leading the way. The only noise you could hear were the soft footfalls of your feet and the waves gently rocking into the shore. For a moment in time, it felt like there were only the two of you in your own little world. Eventually, the bubble popped when you realized that your phone was going off. It was Ma, hoping that you were going to be back soon. Curious, Cove's eyes slid down to your phone. You let your hand fall back down to your side. You held the phone pressed against the palm of your hand. It's Ma. She wants to know when we'll be there. Cove scratched the back of his neck and shook his head. His mouth twitched like he just had a funny thought. Dang, parents. Always trying to make us come home before it gets too dark. You laughed. There's no escape from curfew as long as we're in this neighborhood. Parents are such a pain. It sucks that we have to leave already. Don't act like a little kid. You shrugged. Why would we reprimand him? No escape from curfew as long as we're in this neighborhood. It's like we warp back into being little kids the moment we set foot at the entrance sign. Cove's nose crinkled in fake disgust, and you both burst into a fit of giggles. It'd be nice not to have to worry about bills again. Sometimes. After one last glance, you put your phone away again. Cove gave a small shrug. Ready? Yep. Let's go. Together you left the beach, feeling the call of home pulling you forward. The both of you ran off toward your mom's house, leaving the waves behind, but welcoming the beginning of summer. Cove and you ran up from the beach, sand flying from your steps. Cove made it to the road first, but you managed to catch up to him by the time you reached the house. It wasn't exactly a race, and yet it also wasn't not a competition. Both of you were laughing by the time you bumbled through your old front door together. You inhaled deeply and shouted loud enough to be heard anywhere in the house. We're here! Your moms were seated in the living room. Their eyes sparkled as they locked on you and your light dusting of sand.
Hello.
Welcome home. Mom leaned forward, eyebrows raised at your jubilant entrance. Ma sighed wistfully.
Oh,
That brings back memories. Cove chuckled shyly as he scratched the back of his head. I hope we're not too late. Nope, you're just in time, but you'd better start packing it up. Liz will be waiting. Ma nodded as she stood up from her seat. She lightly ran her fingers over her clothes to smooth out the wrinkles. It took you a second to remember where you had put your stuff. You needed to get it all in the car so you could get everything back to your hotel. Can I help? You shrugged and directed him to your bags. With Cove, your moms, and yourself on the job, it only took one trip to the car to get everything. Cove firmly closed the trunk, and you thanked everyone for the assistance. Of course, kiddo. Come along, Johnson family. Let's get in the car. Come on, Cove, let's go. You've been part of the Johnson family for years. Thanks. Exactly. Well said, Jamie. Cove climbed into the back seat with a decidedly touched expression on his face. You got in on the other side. When everyone was situated and buckled, the engine was started and Ma pulled out onto the street. You couldn't help but feel amused to be stuck in the back seat with Cove, your mom's driving you around. It really was like you were little kids again. Cove caught you staring at him and gave you a bent smile. He was probably on the same wavelength as you from the sheer mischief in it. There was some light chatting on the drive. No one brought up anything too deep, and it mostly became swapping jokey stories. The entire trip was marked by a heavy sense of anticipation. Everyone was ecstatic to see Liz and hear what she had been up to. When you neared the airport, Mom pulled out her phone to call Liz. Ma followed the signs to the correct pickup area and asked for you to shout if you saw your sister. Yeah, Liz, we're at Wing B. There's a blue sign that says North America.
All right.
Tell her that we're right in front of the building with blue windows. She says that she's outside, right by a yellow truck. I see at least 3 yellow trucks. I think they're doing work at the airport. The back and forth continued, with Ma driving around in the wide, circular airport road, while Mom attempted coordination between her and Liz's location. Aha! You leaned forward, peering out the front of the car. A tall, poised silhouette pulled a pale purple roll-along suitcase behind her. It was definitely Liz. She waved to the car, Ma parked along the sidewalk next to her, and Mom put her phone away with a cheer. Mission accomplished, team. Ma excitedly reached over to grasp Mom's raised hand, thrilled that both of her kids were back.
Good job.
That's right. Liz came closer and yanked open the back door beside her. She popped her head into the car, her smile ornery, despite how tired she appeared. It must have been a long trip for her, yet her expression was that same familiar smirk that you had grown up with.
Hey.
Hello, children. I'm back. I've missed you, you laughed. Liz! Welcome back. Rude. Oh, hey, old grandparent who doesn't have any kids. That could be extremely rude depending on whether or not she's been trying. And just laugh. Liz nodded at your chuckles, appreciative that you enjoyed her introduction. You smiled at her. You reached over and hugged her. You poked her cheek. You took hold of her hand. You shook your head. I'm gonna poke her in the cheeks. Her eyes watched your finger with confusion until you poked her. Her jaw dropped at your sheer audacity. Liz leaned back out of your reach and booped your nose before you regained your balance and pulled back. Well, hi to you too, kiddo. Hello, sweetie. It's so nice that you're here. Hi, Elizabeth. He jokingly huffed at her. We're not children. Whatever you say, baby boy. She turned her gaze back to Mom and Ma. You really know how to make someone feel appreciated. Her spirits were high. You could tell she was just as happy to be here as everyone was to see her. She left the door open, but ducked out to walk around to the back of the car. She opened the trunk and lifted her luggage in. I'm gonna move your junk, Jamie. I'll keep it in front of my bag so you can get it later. Ma's dropping you off first, right? Yes, but that's not junk. It's important. Liz slammed the trunk closed without responding. Liz swung around to the open door. You noticed that her hair had a few flyaways, no doubt from a long day of traveling. She leaned against the frame of the car, giving you and Cove a significant look. I am not sitting in the middle. I already had 5 hours of that nightmare on the flight. There's no way I'm getting in between the two of you. I mean, really, who would ever want to be the person pulling Cove Holden and Jamie Johnson apart? Cove puffed up indignantly yet again at her classic tease of your relationship. Liz continued along like she didn't notice.
So?
I don't care how you decide who's scooting. I figure you can fight it out somehow. Cove glanced over at you and shrugged. He unbuckled his seatbelt and moved to the middle. Thanks, Cove. I guess I'll always have a bossy big sister. I'm sorry you're always in the middle, Cove. Some people just must get their way. Good job. I wasn't moving. You stayed quiet. Guess I'll always have a bossy big sister. Always. It's the law. It's more like Liz will never change. Exactly. Why would I need to? With the window seat open, Liz squished herself into the car and shut the door. When everyone was settled, Ma began to pull out.
Let's go.
We're off. Liz crossed her legs, compacting herself slightly. She braced most of her weight on the door behind her instead of sitting up straight. It gave her a little more room. Hopefully we finish the journey. This car's almost as old as we are.
No.
And it's still just as good as you are. All the complaining definitely means Liz is back. We're equivalent to this junker? Hey, I love this old car. You silently watched what was happening outside the window. They can banter themselves. You saw a plane arriving out in the distance. You wondered where it had come from and imagined what all its passengers were here for. Mom turned up the radio as Ma merged onto the highway. The station was familiar, the normal soundtrack for when she had driven you and Liz around town. Liz bounced in her seat, enjoying the classic tune. The sound would be old enough to vote at this point, if it was a person. That was hard to believe. There is nothing to make you feel old more than listening to music that you grew up with or heard in your young adulthood. I was like, yeah, this is still just such a great song. This song is 28 years old now. It is, it's 35 years old. Just makes you just clutch your head. No. The passage of time is relentless and horrible. Stop. It's just, With Liz, the conversation livened up despite it getting later and later into the night. She told you all about her week and all the travel preparations she made. By the time she'd made it to the actual tale of travel itself, Liz started chuckling. On the plane, Liz had sat next to a couple of girls who had talked a lot about how well they could read people. Liz recounted their conversation with her in hilarious detail, as they'd apparently tried to guess her occupation after only shaking her hand. Neither of the girls could agree with one another, and Liz had refused to just tell them. However, the drive to your hotel was only so long. Eventually, your group arrived. You yawned and got out of the car when it stopped. Cove clambered out after you. Liz gave a loud sigh of relief at all the extra space she found herself with. You and Cove grabbed the luggage and then waved off your family after you said your goodbyes. After they left, you and Cove went to find your room. You scanned the key card to unlock your hotel room. It sounded out a soft beep, and you turned the handle of the door. The door creaked open, then you craned your head in to take a look. The first thing you noticed was the large, king-sized bed in the middle of the room. It was a prim, modern-looking space. It seemed clean, smelled faintly like floral air freshener. A smile played on Cove's face as he watched you take in the space. The bed's nice, huh? Which one of us is going to use it? You burst out laughing. You glared at him. Are you serious? Here we go again. Me, you can fend for yourself. You stared blankly at him. Here we go again. I'm kidding, I'm just kidding. I want to share, really. Good. Cove let out a breath in relief that he'd been holding on to. Did he think we wouldn't? I got a good hotel, didn't I? Yeah, you picked out a nice one. It's passable. I guess we'll manage. Thanks for handling this. I'd say it's nice. It's the same hotel I would have picked on my own. It makes sense you'd go for this one. Looks like your room at Kyra's place. You nodded wordlessly in approval. Thanks for making the reservations. No problem. He beamed, glad to have your appreciation. You and Cove continued to chat as you settled in. You unpacked some of your stuff and checked out all the room's amenities. Cove pointed out the mini fridge and started puzzling over what food could be ordered to the room. However, fact was, you were both exhausted. It didn't take too many yawns before you both changed into your pajamas and called it a day. You had to hunt along the wall to locate the light switch. When you finally found it, you flicked it off with a sense of triumph. Oh, we're not brushing our teeth? Ugh. You turned your head over to Cove, who stood behind you in his pajamas. He was cozy and comfortable, but the pieces didn't match. He never minded that. I am exhausted. We both need our beauty rest. Cove smiled, a soft expression that was adorable.
All right.
Okay, let's go to sleep. Despite saying that it was bedtime, Cove took a step toward you. He wrapped his arms around your back, and you leaned into his embrace. Then he lifted you off your feet. What? Still not putting you down, Cove promptly dropped himself backwards. The both of you crashed onto the tight-tucked sheets of the hotel bed. He laughed the entire time. Cove bounced on the landing and absorbed most of the impact. You laid on his chest, feeling a little jostled. You giggled alongside him. You're an absolute madman, you teased. You could have warned me. That was scary. Let's do it again. You swatted his shoulder for that. I don't know if I would have called him an absolute madman. I'd be like, you goof. You could have warned me. Your heart had sped up with the shock. Sure, falling into bed with Cove was fun, but a little heads up would have been nice. Sorry, I won't do that again. You appreciated his sincerity and breathed a sigh of relief that you would not have to worry about future sneak attacks. Apology accepted. His face relaxed, seeing that you were okay. Why'd you do it? My dad used to do that kind of thing to me when I was little. Sort of. Nostalgia was clear in his voice. It was a fond memory, and you felt something warm in your chest. You made a small noise of understanding that turned into a yawn. When Cove yawned in return, you pulled at the sheets until you were actually under the blankets. Good night, Cove. Night. Don't let the bedbugs bite. Sweet dreams. You stuck your tongue out at him playfully. So, do you know why pigeons are called pigeons when they're actually doves? I think sweet dreams is fine. Then you kissed his lips, then you kissed his nose, then you kissed his forehead, then you ruffled his hair, then you pinched his cheek, then you shot him a sleepy grin. And you kiss him on the nose, because it's cute. You rolled and propped yourself up on your elbows so that you could give Cove a quick peck on the nose. He beamed back at you, obviously enjoying his goodnight kiss. Cove wrapped his arms around you and snuggled next to you. He let out a contented breath. You reached out to hold Cove under one arm and then used your other hand to comb through his hair. You have to be scooched like way down on the bed. Two of you relaxed into one another, and you knew neither of you would want to be anywhere else. Can't believe we're really here. You and Liz and everyone else are going to be here in Sunset Bird again. I was staring at all the scenery going by while we were driving here, and it honestly felt like we never left. He ran a hand down his face. I mean, in some ways it feels like it's been ages and everything's different. Some of that is definitely because I'm staying at a hotel instead of being in my room at Dad's. But yeah, it's so weird. Feels natural to me. I don't even know how I feel. It's exciting. I just hope things go okay. You couldn't even put anything you felt into words. I don't know. I don't know how I feel. Cove nodded. He understood completely. I'm looking... The yawn forced an interruption into the statement. Cove was undeterred. I'm looking forward to this. He tucked his head into your neck. You felt his lashes flutter closed against your skin. Yeah, I can't wait.
See you tomorrow.
I'll see you tomorrow, Jamie. His words were a whisper you barely heard. It might not have even been that exactly. You might have just been guessing. Cove always had a habit of mumbling. It was okay either way, whether you heard it or only thought you heard. The sentiment was true regardless. Cove would see you tomorrow when he opened his eyes and the sunlight returned to your hometown of Sunset Bird. You comfortably drifted off to sleep and eagerly awaited seeing Cove tomorrow as well. Your eyes gently opened to see a dim, unfamiliar ceiling. You recalled where you were, a hotel room. Yawning, your muscles felt relaxed and warm enough that sleep threatened to pull you under again. Morning. Cove's voice brought you back to consciousness. The heat made sense now. You knew the comfortable weight against you was your boyfriend. His arm was draped around you, and his fingers were lightly drawing shapes on your pajamas. You twisted over to face him fully. Morning, sleepyhead. Cove raised an eyebrow. His index finger drew a question mark across your back, pulling a giggle out of you. You knew what I meant. Have you been up long? You hooked your heel around his calf and trailed up to the space behind his knee. He hummed contentedly. I'm just like trying to picture it in my head. Not succeeding. Not too long. You squeezed him adoringly in your arms. You snuggled against his chest. You played with his hair dozily. Gently you kissed him. You let out a soft breath. You slipped out of bed to start the day. I like a bit of chest snuggling. Pushing into him, you squished your face into his chest. The air knocked from Cove's lungs came out in a light chuckle. I didn't mean, squeeze him till he couldn't breathe. Cove closed his eyes. His hand found the middle of your back again. He held it there, enjoying the closeness of the moment. Neither of you were making any moves to get up and actually start the day. It was sweet and comfortable to be wrapped up in Cove. You could indulge just a little while longer. Eventually, enough time flew by that there really weren't any minutes to spare. There were too many people waiting, so you both crawled out of the sheets together. Standing up, Cove took a few seconds to stretch. He glanced over at you with an animated expression. Really looking forward to your mom's anniversary dinner tonight. It's gonna be fun. I think so too. This whole trip is great, actually. Being here with everybody is like having another chance at being a kid. We can do all the stuff we used to, and all the things we never did but wanted to. Yeah, world is our oyster, Cove. I do not want to think about being little again. It's good to be back. Sunset Bird won't know what hit it. You nodded. Definitely go with Sunset Bird won't know what hit it. Cove's mouth curved into a bent smile. He tossed a pillow at you, and you caught it. Should I be worried about getting thrown out of town? Or worse? Worse? Scolded? Laughing, you squeezed the pillow against your chest. You shook your head. That can't stop us now. Well, we better get back to it, huh? We've got a pretty full schedule ahead of us for your mom's big day. You smirked. So much for being a kid. So many responsibilities. I don't think seeing our friends really counts as responsibilities, Jamie. Fine, you got me there. After that, you and Cove moved around each other, busily getting dressed and ready for the day. Light laughter and chatter filled the air the entire time. Bags were packed and phones were sought after. You suddenly tossed Cove his phone when he hadn't been able to find it. You handed Cove his phone when he hadn't been able to find it. You slapped Cove's butt as he stepped past you. You somehow lost a single sock, but Cove found it behind the headboard. You shook your head at Cove when he ran a hand through his hair instead of brushing it. This is kind of fun. You somehow lost a single sock, but Cove found it behind the headboard. How did it end up there? You tell me. You were the one wearing it yesterday. Chuckling, Cove waved the balled-up sock in your face. You snatched it out of his hand and stared at it incredulously. I don't have any idea how it got there.
I
guess it's just another mystery for the ages. Yep. There was nothing else stopping either of you now. In minutes, you were hopping into your ride and heading back to the neighborhood. It was another beautiful this music. It was another beautiful summer day in Sunset Burn. You couldn't resist rolling the window down so you could absorb it all during the drive. Cove sat across the seat from you, near the opposite window. His gaze was locked outside, catching all the old landmarks the vehicle was passing. Your spirits rose even higher the moment you made it home once more. Eager, you hopped out of the car and let yourself inside. Your moms knew you were going to be there that morning. But the second you made it past the threshold, an excited scream nearly scared you out of your shoes. Hi! Jamie, you're here! And guess what? I'm here too! Oh, I like Lee's hair. While your heart rate settled, a broad grin quickly took over your whole face. Since your cousin moved out on her own, you'd noticed that she really found her own groove. She was still the same loving person she'd always been on the inside, but she expressed herself in new ways. Lee was strong, kind, and smart. Over the last few years, she graduated college with a degree in history. The last you heard, she was pursuing her dreams, working toward getting into the music industry. Lee! Hey, it's so nice to see you. You look great. Can I get some warning next time you're gonna screech? You smiled. Hey, it's so nice to see you. I know. It's been horrible not seeing your face. Giggling, she reached over to grasp your cheeks for added emphasis. Lee leaned to the side to glance past you and meet Cove's eye. The grin on her face widened while she waved. Hi, Cove. Hey, nice to see you, Lee. I got in practically at dawn. It was a whole thing, but at least I made it here alive. Lee exhaled and slumped her shoulders to emphasize how exhausting the ordeal was. Behind her, Liz made her way over. She crossed her arms at the scene. Alright, just checking something. I'm here too, in case you were wondering. I'm always wondering if you're there. Somewhere. Nope. I wasn't, but thanks anyway. You merely shrugged. You shook your head. I'm always wondering if you're there somewhere. Liz's lip twitched before twisting into a smug smile. She brushed a stray hair out of her face.
Hey.
You make it sound like I'm always following you around. I have a life of my own, if you weren't aware. I know, but when I'm home, I'm always keeping an eye out for my big sister. Old habits. How sweet. I miss the days of checking to see if someone else made it to the TV first, too. You laughed. Of course, that's what her mind would go to. Another friendly shout rang out in the living room. It was as cheery as it ever was from the many times you'd heard it over the years. Good morning, family. Your parents both came out from the side hall together. Morning.
Well?
Now that everyone is here, I do have a little something to mention. Ma put her hand lovingly over her wife's. Mom leaned her head into Ma's with matching affection. We're all still having dinner together, but Pam here actually made plans to take me out to brunch to celebrate our anniversary. Just the two of us. Pleased, she hooked an arm around Ma's waist. Sorry to push you out, but I'm sure this group of mature grown-ups will be able to entertain themselves for an afternoon. We don't need to find a babysitter or anything. Totally. Yeah, have fun, Mom. Don't worry about it. Understood. We'll tell you all about our shenanigans at dinner. This works out, actually. An afternoon open means there's time to meet up with Terry and Randy. Hopefully they're free today. Your two school friends still lived around the area. They knew you were coming for your mom's party, but when or how you might arrange to see each other wasn't set in stone.
Sounds good.
Definitely. We should call them.
All right.
I have some people I'd like to say hi to as well. Liz had her cell phone in hand, ready to get her plans made before she was even done speaking. Arching an eyebrow, she then directed the next part at Lee. Would you want to come along? We've missed out on a lot of cousin bonding time in the past. Yeah, I'd love to. It would be an honor to hang out with you, Liz. And whose fault is that? Oh, fair. Lee's meant to go with me. I hope you both have fun. You nodded. And hope you have fun. Don't worry. Fun is my specialty. Chuckling, Liz smirked. We'll try not to have all the fun. Don't get into too much trouble. You shook your head and Liz winked. She then glanced back at her phone and rapidly typed a new text. Excellent. It's settled. She squeezed her wife's hand. Her gaze took in the whole room, ecstatic to have the house full again. Today is going to be perfect.
Yes.
I think so too. I truly couldn't be happier with my wife, my children, and our whole beautiful family. It's already a wonderful anniversary. There were awes and sweet comments from the group gathered around the couple of the hour. Seeing how your moms were, you couldn't help but hope that when you got to be their age, you could be as proud of your life as them. But Ma's attention then fell on you, and the look on her face twisted mischievously. A shiver shot down your spine. This is a very good time of year for a marriage, don't you think so? With snickers, all eyes eagerly slid over to you and Cove. Shocked at her implication, his cheeks burned red. There was no missing the meaning in Ma's words. She was clear as a bell, and she knew it. Your mind leapt to the plan you'd been creating. You had been making moves in that direction. You wondered if Cove agreed with Ma's words. You'd been hopefully waiting for him to ask. Your mind leapt at those words. It wasn't something you'd planned on, but maybe she was right. You realized recently that you were happy with the relationship you had. You didn't want anything else now. I think I'm gonna skip these because I don't want to jump to marriage right now. But it wasn't something you'd planned on, but maybe she was right. Just let the seed be planted. Or you realized recently you were happy with the relationship you had, didn't want anything else now. What if she planted a seed in Cove's mind now? Then we'll have conflict in the future if he wants to get married and we don't. I'll go with this one. Your mind leapt at those words. Wasn't something you'd planned on, but maybe she was right. But you stared straight ahead, trying to conceal the marriage thoughts now spinning in your head. You caught Cove shyly rubbing at the slight scar that was still visible on his arm. His stuttering never quite reached full sentences. It instead turned into silence. Cove's brain was shutting down. I had sympathy for him.
There.
You don't have to say anything. It's just a little thing to ponder. At that, Cove's mouth snapped shut. With a stiff nod, he creakily glanced at you. If it was only the two of you here, you got the impression he would have had something to say. For now, a meaningful look was all there was. Right then, let's get back to what we were doing. After that, you enthusiastically began setting up plans to meet up with your friends. They were both able to come see you, having kept their schedules free for this, and you couldn't wait. Cove was also speedily sending text messages. Since you conveyed the plans to Terry and Randy, you imagined that he was letting his parents know about what he was going to be up to. The group continued to chat and catch up until it was time for your mom's brunch and your big meetup with your friends. Soon enough, everyone was out the door looking forward to their fun-filled afternoons and the dinner later that night. Once outside on the neighborhood street, you looked to Cove. He stood at your side with a bent smile. Terry and Randy were driving into town, while you and Cove were traveling on foot to meet them at an easier-to-reach spot. Man, we really are kids in Sunset Bird again, having to rely on other people who actually have cars to really get anywhere. Now we're stuck walking to whatever's nearby. You laughed. You nodded along in agreement. No, we're reverting back to infancy. We never drive anyway. You shook your head. No, we're reverting back to infancy. The snort was followed by true laughter from Cove. Teasingly, you pouted. This isn't funny, Cove. I don't want to be a baby again. I didn't realize we were regressing that seriously. He shrugged, then stuck his hands in his pockets. The thought of being little again made you shiver. Couldn't go back to that. I like being me currently.
Me too.
I like current you too. Let's go. You bounced forward with several steps and shot Cove a playful look over your shoulder. With that, the two of you began your trip down the old road. It was a casual stroll into town, and before you knew it, you were at one of the large parking lots in Sunset Bird. It was the one that used to have the little crepe stall. Remembering that delicious smell, you got lost in thought. The store did well enough that it moved into a full-sized building a couple of years ago. You'd seen pictures. It was very cute. The parking lot was now just, an empty lot that cars could theoretically park in. Not many took the offer. Cove pulled out his phone, texting Terry and Randy in a group chat to let them know you'd made it. Someone must have answered already because Cove gave you a status update while he was still staring at the screen. Randy texted, "I can see you." Oh, the blare of a car horn. I'm sure I was going to say, remember that time? The blare of a car horn cut you off. You and Cove both turned toward the source of the noise. One of the windows rolled down.
Hey, buddies.
Hey, buddies. Your friends had arrived, making a spectacle of it, as expected. Being the only car meant that they got the pick of the lot, so they pulled to a stop in front of you. The window closed back up, and instead the two front doors popped open. Terry and Miranda stepped out onto the pavement. Hi, Cove. Hi, Jamie. Ah, Miranda looks so cute. With a cheery wave, Miranda skipped toward you. Terry, on the other hand, walked speedily over to Cove, squeezing him into a hug. A quiet laugh escaped Cove, along with the majority of the air in his lungs. He didn't fight the constriction, but instead gave Terry's back a pat with a large grin spreading across his face. When he let Cove go, Terry came right up to you. He held his fist up for you to bump it. You hugged him instead. You fist bumped him. You smacked his fist with a high five to make a turkey. You waved. A fist bump back. Pressed forward, meeting Terry's knuckles with a light bop. He greeted you with a satisfied grin. It felt so nice to have your friend group reunited as adults. I gotta say my first impulse is like, dude, you need to work on your posture a little bit and like the eyelashes or something, or like the cut of the neck of the shirt. But you know what? People who are trans do not owe you a full performance of masculinity or femininity or whatever. Non-binary people do not owe you androgyny. They can express themselves however they want. So, always I have to stop and interrogate my impulses sometimes. It felt so nice to have your friend group reunited as adults. Terry was currently a full-time lifeguard down at the busier beach a town over. You were proud of him. He'd helped a lot of people in his line of work. And in recent years, you and Terry were able to form an even closer bond. It was reassuring to have a friend who knew what it was like to go through changing parts of their identity. You could go to him for understanding, and you knew that Terry felt the same about you. Miranda took Cove's hand and one of yours in her other. Her eyes alight, she gave you both a gentle squeeze.
So great.
I'm so happy to see you again. Hey, Terry. Hi, Miranda. He answered assuredly. It was clear that he was equally glad to see them. This reunion was long awaited. For a while, Miranda had been working hard as an assistant at a school while continuing her own education. She also kept busy running a small online shop selling crafted knickknacks she made. Same. It's good to see you too. I missed you. It's been forever. You look so cute. You smiled. You look so cute. Aw, stop that. The pink in her cheeks deepened at your compliment. I mean it. You knew how full Miranda's plate had been for a while now. Despite the busy schedule, she really did take the time to put together a fantastic look. Miranda released your hands. Giggling, she eyed you both carefully. So, how have you been?
It's nice.
Things have been nice. Everything is perfect. It's fantastic. We lick our month. It's fantastic. I've been doing well. I'm okay. No comment. You shrugged. Oh, just how have you been? How have you been? No comment. Fine. Miranda's enthusiasm deflated some at that. gave her a small smile, hoping that she'd understand that you were fine. Okay, then. What about you? I'm super! Thanks for asking. Terry sidled up next to Miranda and put his arm around her shoulder. Sighing dreamily, Randy chuckled up at her boyfriend. Yeah. Things have been unbelievable. He pressed his cheek against Miranda's, and she let out a light squeak. The sight put an amused grin on your face. Your friends made a wonderful couple. They knew each other well and cared about each other so much. It was no shock at all when you heard the news that they'd started dating. The corner of your mouth curled playfully while you took in the warm welcomes all around. At times it was still kind of funny how your group of 4 friends evolved into 2 couples. Not that you were complaining about it, you thought it was an amazing thing. Cove then pulled his phone out and peeked at the screen. You repeated the motion every so often. You raised a curious eyebrow at his unusual behavior. Cove was too focused on whatever he was doing to even notice you noticing him, which was even stranger.
So...
Is there anything either of you want to do while we're here? Any place you'd want to see? I'd be up for a lot of things, but actually, there is something that I want to do right here. Oh yeah? What's that? Jerry poked at Cove's arm playfully. Miranda met your eye, silently asking if you had any idea what Cove was talking about. You shrugged. I just want to see my friends. Huh. Cove, you're already doing that.
Well...
True, but I could be doing it even more. You, Terry, and Miranda all turned to Cove with identical incredulous expressions. His stare moved to a point past you 3, and you heard the scrape of sand and gravel underfoot. Someone else stepped into the parking lot. Startled, you jumped at the call of the warm voice shouting over. Is it Derek?
Sup, guys?
Hey!
Gals, pals?
Sup, guys, gals, and pals? Running a hand through his hair, the person who crossed the lot was unmistakably Derek Suarez. He was beaming the whole way. It's been too long, even though it hasn't actually been that long, but long enough. Derek! Wow, I'm so glad you're here. Oh man, hunk alert. You ran over and hugged him, grabbed onto his arm excitedly. You waved at him. Must be like, Derek! You screeched his name and waved with both arms to welcome him. Bashful, Derek scratched the back of his head. You're here! Here in the flesh.
I missed you.
Missed you. He spoke to you gently. You were thrilled just being there, reunited with him. Derek was a good friend of yours, and had been for a long time. Hey. He waved over at Terry and Miranda pleasantly. Over the years, they all had met several times in passing, simply through being friends with the same people. Sup, big man? Hey, it's great you could come. Cove put himself next to Derek. Happily, he clapped a hand on his friend's shoulder. Hi, thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Of course, thanks for inviting me. Sheepishly, Cove looked back at you and the others. That's when it clicked in your mind. It wasn't his parents that he was texting earlier. It was Derek the entire time. Derek is in town for a few months to help my dad and his dad with some work. Yep, I'm working on my own business thing too, but I'm still involved with running the scuba shop when it's called for.
Very nifty.
Nifty. Humming, Derek elbowed Cove.
So?
But hey, we don't have to stand around here for my sake. What's the plan? Let's hit the town. Eager to get going, everyone piled into Terry's car. The rest of the afternoon was spent visiting spots all over Sunset Bird, laughing and reminiscing the whole way. Once it started to get late, Terry brought you and Cove back to the neighborhood. You didn't have to walk there after all. You didn't get out until promises were made to see each other again before your trip ended. Side by side, you and Cove stood in the street and waved at the car as it drove away. Terry tapped the horn for 2 honks while Miranda stuck her hand out the window to wave back. You caught Derek in the back window, giving you both a wide grin. Sighing, as soon as the car turned down another street, they were finally out of sight. Well, that was one party. Time for another. Ready to go see your moms? Of course. It's far too early to hop off the party train. Cove raised his eyebrows before letting out a hearty laugh. He nodded in the direction of your house.
Come on.
Lead the way, conductor. Choo-choo! Spirits high, you and Cove crossed the distance to your house. It was almost time for the anniversary dinner. Oh, okay. That is all I have time for right now. I'm going to cut it off here. This is going way longer than I anticipated. I've got to keep it short. These episodes have been just kind of arduously long to edit, even though I'm not doing a ton of, physical edits to it. Getting the sound right on these has been surprisingly difficult. So it's still involved, these 3-hour episodes have taken 5-6 hours to edit, and it's too much. It's too much. So I'm going to cut it off here. Goodbye for now. And please, come back for the conclusion. I'll see you then.